Raquetta, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Latrice. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we are glad to have you and glad to do this because this is important when we start talking about politics and the future and what our city needs. So, first of all, tell me what makes you qualified to run for this position in public office? And also, what would your top priority be if you were elected?
All right. Well, thank you, Latrice. Everyone, hi, I'm Raquetta Dotley, running for City Council District 7. I'm qualified because I'm community conscious, I'm dependable, and I am accountable. I worked in the community for over 20 years, doing civic engagement activities, voter education, registration, and participation activities. I've put together candidate forums. Currently, I work as the executive director of the Net Resource Foundation, as well as the administrator at the Westside Church. I sit on several boards and I still work with voter engagement activities. It's a little bit small scale because I am running for city council. So that qualifies me. I love people. I'm dependable, accountable, community conscious. And my top three priorities, as I've went out to canvas and talked to people, I've shaped them around that. My first is neighborhood equity. Neighborhood equity ensures that each community in District 7 receives the resources and support that they need to thrive. The district is so diverse. We have East Lake, Alton Park, St. Elmo. We have Coward Street and Coward Place and Main Street, down on Cameron Harbor, Battery Place. So it is a huge district, a very diverse district. So each community has its own specific needs that need to be addressed. So that is my top priority. Next is economic development. I want to ensure that our businesses are also receiving the resources that they need. To me, community and economic development go together because you begin to employ people from the community and help them with upward mobility. So that is important to me, supporting small businesses through some of the small grant and loan programs that we have with the city, making sure that small businesses are aware of these things and how they can continue to grow within Chattanooga. And then finally, infrastructure and transportation. As I've canvassed District 7, one thing I've heard so much is about the paving, about the city, about the road conditions, about stormwater concerns. So those are issues that I want to make top priority, especially for District 7 with so much development going on. We want to ensure that we have the infrastructure we need for the residents that are currently here, as well as those we are trying to attract.
Now, you kind of touch right into my next point because
Mhm.
you talked about economics. And one of the things, too, in economics is we've seen that businesses and families have been hit so hard by this pandemic. There are more families than ever going to the food bank. There are
Mhm.
more businesses than ever having to close their doors and lay people off. What would you do to help families and businesses in your community and our city to recover and to bounce back from this pandemic and strengthen our economy once again?
Uh, First thing I would do is make them aware of the current resources that we have. When you have organizations like United Way, you have CNE, organizations that have rental assistance, any type of utility assistance, because those are immediate needs, as well as supporting the Chattanooga Area Food Bank and also connecting them to resources within the city that have, the food resources, supply resources that they need. So that is an immediate thing that can be done, that can actually easily be done to connect people to those resources. In addition, promoting any type of jobs that are available within the city, any jobs that are, when I say in the city, I mean just the city of Chattanooga at large, promoting that, encouraging people to apply for these jobs because it is hard out here. But we do have employers that are hiring. When I see companies come across, I'm on this email blast that sends across jobs that are coming, and I do that even at my job where I work. What we do is when I see jobs come across, if somebody talks to me and say, hey, do you know anything that's coming up? I send it over immediately to them and say, hey, this is available, this is a job, feel free to apply for that. So sharing that information, doing that, and also for small businesses, especially small businesses, because that is the backbone of our economy. That is the backbone of our city. They employ so many people across the city. So continuing to promote those incentives, any type of federal grant that we can get to continue to help them share and continue to help them grow, we want to do that. So any type of incentives, any type of grants, anything that we can do within my realm of influence, within our realm as a city, I want to promote that.
Okay, so also another big issue that's going around now all across the country and right here in Chattanooga is labor unions supporting $15 an hour for minimum wage. There's been a lot of discussion on how this would help, how this would hurt. Where do you stand on that? Do you support this effort? Or do you think that that would hurt more than it would help?
I 100% a $15 minimum wage. I was endorsed, I am endorsed by the SEIU, the Service Employees Union, as well as the Chattanooga Area Labor Council. Being a daughter of a labor union stewardess, also just growing up, not having much, it is important that people make livable wages. And $15 isn't really livable, but you can still make it work. It is important to do that. People need to be able to make the money they need for upward mobility, to take care of their homes, to take care of their children, to get into their community and help and do things. But it's hard to do when you're working 2 and 3 jobs. You're working a job that's $10 an hour, maybe 40 hours a week. You're working another that's maybe $8 an hour, and you're doing another 20 hours. That's 60 hours a week, and you're still not really making it to the place where you can really impact your family, impact your community, because you're just struggling to get by. So I do 100% support that. I believe that if we move that dial up, we'll see the great benefits of it. There are no real downsides to paying people what they deserve to make. You will see so many different things change if we just take the time to do that. The real bottom line is it's a capitalist society. Some people on top, some people on bottom, but it's time to flip that and begin to really push that $15 minimum wage. I want more. I would love to see more, but at minimum, that's what we could do.
That also, when we start talking about that and flipping that minimum wage, we're talking about also looking at the city here in Chattanooga where 40% of people spend 30% of their income on housing. So they're considered what's called burdened because they're having to spend so much on housing that they really can't afford other necessities for their families and for their children. It's kind of like that, you said, maybe surviving, but not necessarily living, so to speak.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about how do we change that? Does that go back to that increasing the minimum wage? What else needs to be done so people can survive, make a decent living, and not have to spend all of their house income on housing? What do we do about affordable housing?
Absolutely. Affordable housing is very important. Actually, before I just purchased a home in September, but before that, I lived 6 years in at Alta Place Apartments, which is an affordable housing apartment complex. Very nice, very well done, and it's important to have that type of housing where someone like me can save, or somebody with a family can begin to save up to get a house, to get in a position to get their credit scores together, to be able to have a little savings, something saved up, so they can get ready to get that down payment, get ready to have money to do maintenance and repairs on their homes. That's why affordable housing is important, because it helps you right now, but it also will help down the line in saving and doing the things you need to do to create that generational wealth that you want to see in your family. So affordable housing is important. It's important, especially in our urban core, where we're seeing a lot of development. I know coming into Alton Park, it's the Reserve at Mountain Pass. Kind of looking at that and seeing that's a 240 unit complex coming into the area. Looking at that, trying to make sure I know we spoke to the developers way back in June of 2020 and said it was going to be workforce housing. So we always got to be careful of that wording, workforce housing, affordable housing. What's the difference there? But prayerfully, that'll be one of those spaces where people can move into and begin to build that, start a foundation of building that wealth to move to a different place, move to home buy-in or however they would like to do. So that is very important. Affordable housing is key to creating general wealth, key to creating home ownership for marginalized communities.
And that's important because when people have home ownership, they tend to have a more sense of a pride in their community as well, and just in their life. So that's important, as you were saying, home ownership. Let's talk about what's been going on in the city. Last year, shootings were up 20%. As a member of the city council, how do you curb this? How do you stop this? How do you change this trend of what's going on as to seeing these shootings up 20% in our city?
It's getting down to the core of the issue. Systemic poverty creates these type of issues. I'm not saying that isn't all, poverty areas or high poverty areas, but that creates an environment, we always stressed out when things are going on. That's part of the problem. And then you also have to look at, what's going on. You have nobody doing anything. People are in the house all the time. I think COVID pushed it in a way that you're forced in a house, you're forced around the same people, and it has created this anxiety, this stress. So it's just looking at the data and saying what caused these shootings. Was it domestic violence type issues? Was it were they, gang related? Were they isolated incidents? Where were they? So first thing to do is take a look at the data and say what caused these issues, and then address those issues at the core. Like I said, sometimes it may be poverty, the conditions of systemic poverty. It could be, like I said, domestic violence. It could be an isolated incident. So you have to really look at it and look at those individual incidents and say, what is it? Where did it come from? And then address it at its core. So to me, that's how you start dealing with a problem, is looking at, where did it start? What is the root of this? And then address it from that perspective. So I believe that change can happen and things can be done, but we have to first look at that data comprehensively and determine how we want to address those issues.
One of the things too is we all watch this past summer and right here in our city as the protests continue to grow from the death of George Floyd. There were calls to defund the police, divest. Where do you stand on this, and what was your takeaway from all of that?
My takeaway is being an African American female, watching people that look like me get killed, for no reason, watching people that look like me and their sons and daughters being hurt. It made me frustrated, and I understood exactly where everyone was coming from. It was ridiculous. So my position is with the defund the police, I'm more into reinvesting into our priorities, taking a comprehensive look at the budget and saying, where can we allocate funds for social services? Where can we allocate funds for additional police training? Wanting to recruit more minorities onto police forces to make sure, because it's a big problem. It's not just this one thing, because people are set in their minds about certain people, about certain things. So it's not just a police problem, but it's a mindset problem. It is people think certain ways about certain people. You can see it when you're walking down the street. You can see it when you walk past somebody. So it's a bigger issue than that, but unfortunately, a lot of that gets onto the police force with people, with the way they think about certain types of people, and it bleeds out, and it's horrible. And I just hate what happened this summer. It just gets me in a, gets me very agitated, very irritated to see that. But as far as defunding the police, I'm more into reinvestment, reallocation, taking a comprehensive look at the budget and saying, what can we do to reinvest into our communities, reinvest into our youth, and also put One of the great things I think we've done here in the city, three great things. We passed the Community Police Advisory Board. I like that with the city. I think it needs more legs on it, but it's a good start. We also have the Racial Equity Dashboard. I think that is wonderful. Also, the Police Incident Data Dashboard. Also, I think that is great to keep up, to hold them accountable so that we can all see what is going on. So I'm 100% for reviewing the budget comprehensively to reallocate and reinvest into priorities for our youth and for social service activities within the city.
And let's talk about, as we kind of conclude on this topic here, about there were still, people took a side on this and really didn't come together. I mean, there were some instances where people said, something has to be done. But they were like, whether it's the activists and people who were, burning down or doing, vandalizing buildings, or when the flag was burned, the sheriff's office flag. But then you have people on the other side who said, okay, officers were too restrictive in some cases. So what is that happy medium, and where do you stand on holding each side accountable for their actions?
Accountability is important. It doesn't matter what field you're in. Everyone needs to be held accountable, especially when you're working with the public and you working with public dollars. Um, it depends on, you said, how we can bring them together. Is that
Right,
your
how we can bring them together, because you have people who said, well, no one, the people who were supporting these protests, did they not come out and condone the vandalism? So when you have instances like that, what I'm saying is, does that also kind of take away from what you're trying to get across? If people don't come out and say, hey, we're out here protesting because of this cause. Now, these people that are doing this, we're going to hold them accountable too, because of what they're doing. If they're vandalizing a building, or if they're doing something that is unlawful.
Oh, okay. So I think, again, it goes back to the accountability. Everybody has to be accountable for their actions. If it's something that's, if something you weren't supposed to be doing, you got to be held accountable for that. It doesn't matter who you are. I think a conversation is important. I think a lot of things get lost in translation. I think coming in together and having that conversation, and it's hard when you're hard pressed on one side or hard pressed on the other side and saying, no, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. A lot of times people don't come together to talk about, well, what do we agree on and how can we move progressively forward? I think what you saw with what we see with the racial equity dashboard, with the police incident data, those are ways of coming together to move toward a positive solution. But even greater than that is to get into the budget, and then even the police advisory committee, police advisory board. But then also it begins to, it can do more once you get into the budget and people actually can see those changes, see that, hey, we're not just putting a board together, or we're not just putting up some data so you can see, but the budget is what's going to reflect what's real. The budget is what's going to reflect those true changes. That's why that conversation is important, because as of now, as it stands, the mayor develops the budget, sends down to the council, and the council approves it, sends it back for amendments, adjustments, or whatever. So to me, that's going to be that meeting ground and that's why you saw in June, you had so many people on the call in June for the budget, because they didn't see that. They didn't see that being tangible within their budget, in the city budget. The city budget did not reflect what the people wanted or what they had asked for. You're not going to please everybody. I'm not, naive, to think that everybody's going to be happy, because everybody's not going to be happy. Everybody's not going to get every single thing that they want. But when the budget didn't reflect those social justice changes, it just made things much worse. And so people called in and they wanted to see that change, and they were not able to see that within this current year's budget. So moving into the new year's budget, the fiscal year 2022, we're going to be able to see that change. So that's the hard hitting part, is basically put your money where your mouth is. It's the answer to that, is the coming together. The coming together to me is to see that tangible effort in the budget.
And when you talk about that, and you kind of hit on talking about the mayor, the city council, in your words, in your opinion, how important is that relationship between the mayor and the city council?
That relationship is very important. It is, they should be working in tandem with each other. That to me, what you have is a mayor who, in essence, is the CEO of the city of Chattanooga, and then you have your council members who are all your, your vice presidents, we would say, of each district. And so when you see it from that perspective, we should be working in tandem with each other. The budget shouldn't be created in isolation. Okay, yeah, we had community, which I really love, the BFO process, the community input process of it. And then once that process is done, it goes to the mayor to, get the budget together and send it to council. There should be a better working, a collaborative working, that before that budget hits that council floor, every city council person has sat down with the mayor, whether they do it collectively, they do it in groups of threes, or however they want to do it, and have talked about the priority things that their particular district constituents are talking about, and emphasizing that to where they can all come to some type of conclusion. So once you get community input, and then because the council is only bringing back that community input as well, maybe from residents that didn't participate or maybe did participate in the community input sessions. So they will have additional voices they're bringing to the table, and putting all that together, bringing it before council, let the city see what's going on, the residents of Chattanooga see what's going on. And from there, then you'll have a stronger budget, you have stronger people understanding, you have more people understanding what is going on. So to me, it should be working in tandem, collaborative working, to where by the time it gets to city council, constituents know. Now again, everybody's not going to be paying attention, but the majority of constituents know, hey, this is what the budget includes. Each district know, hey, in the budget it includes this that we requested. And it just it just really boils down to communication.
Communication, getting the word out, and making sure people are informed, and I always say, and knowledgeable. And as we wrap up, one thing that this community is going to be dealing with for a while, regardless, is talking about COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Have you, first of all, do you plan to get the vaccine? And what would you say to other minorities in your community who are apprehensive about it?
Yeah, I am apprehensive about it. So I am that minority in my community that's apprehensive. But long term, I do plan to get the vaccine. I'm more of a watch and see first to see what happens, because I've learned a lot. I want to say Kingdom Partners, along with Mount Canaan Church, had they had a forum. It was a forum. It was a couple of weeks ago. They had a doctor on talking about the vaccine in minority communities, and talking about maybe allergic reactions. And to me, I have to get more information. Okay, so when they talked about Moderna versus Pfizer, what's in it? Do you have these type of allergies? If so, then you may want to wait for something that doesn't have this particular ingredient in it, so it doesn't agitate your allergies. Different things like that. So my long-term goal is to get it, but I need to learn more information about what's in each vaccine, and then how does that impact me personally as an individual. So that's what I would recommend to those who are apprehensive, to find out what's going on, find out what's in those vaccines. You can look online, of course, see what's on them, call the health department. Just gather as much information as you can, because you never know, especially when you're talking about seniors getting a vaccine, with some of the medications sometimes they take and things like that. You don't know how that's going to impact, how the vaccine is going to impact certain types of medications. So to me, for those who are apprehensive like me, get more information. And if you want to wait a little bit, well, we have to wait anyway. I believe they're on the
On
schedule.
the system, a schedule of like prioritizing who gets it first, right?
Right. So just in the meantime, while we're waiting, just find out as much as you can. Look up, try to follow and find people that have had reactions. The reactions I've heard from people around my age were, they were tired. Really fatigue has been the biggest thing I've heard. But for the most part, I hadn't heard really anything negative. So it's just a matter of be informed. Be informed.
And I think that's always so important. And just that you just said brought out. I just hosted the other week a forum with some doctors talking about the minority community and those very questions. So again, hopefully, like you said, educating people and making them knowledgeable to stay safe, so we can get our lives back to some sense of normalcy.
Right.
As we wrap up, anything else that people should know about you in closing, and why they should support you?
Absolutely. Well, again, I'm Raquetta Dotley. Vote Raquetta. I'm running in City Council District 7 race. I'm accountable, dependable, and community conscious. I can do this job. I will do this job very well. And you can go check me out at raquettadotley.com. Every week I post a Let's Talk Tuesday in which I deal with, give my commentary on different city issues. And you can visit me at Vote Raquetta. Go to my pages like Vote Raquetta at Instagram and Facebook. So check me out there as well. So again, raquettadotley.com, Facebook, Instagram, Vote Raquetta. I am the people's candidate. I love people. I love engaging with people, and I love to see people involved civically. So that's what I'm all about: connecting people to resources, standing up for our community to make sure that we get all the resources we need to thrive together, and together we'll build stronger communities.
Raquetta Dotley, thank you so very much for your time today, and best of luck in your race.